Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it anymore.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network.
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
Where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
It is September 11th, 2025, and tonight it's feeling that way because we're talking about the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, and I imagine for many they can remember exactly what went on September 11th. That usually we would be talking about today, Dr. Carson and I in the studio, but right now the world's response to violence, you might know, is often violence. Protests, riots, outrage, but Scripture gives us another way, right? In 2 Chronicles 7:14, it says, "If my people are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land." So here's the question. It's a live show. We need your calls. When tragedy strikes, what does a truly Christian response look like in something like this situation with the tragedy? I mean, it's just absolute tragedy of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's an outrage in the streets, or is it prayer on our knees? As Stu was just talking about, are we going to pray I versus AI? Would love your thoughts, right, on the whole situation, like, where you were, what you're feeling, the contribution maybe Charlie Kirk has made to your faith or to your maybe you registered to vote because of Charlie. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And I would also mention that, from my perspective, which probably is a little unique, I know how connected the Truth Network is to Salem Broadcasting. And Charlie was by far and away their number one personality, and was by far and away their number one podcast. And so it, over there at Salem, which is, our owner Stu Epperson's father's company, that he founded, and now Stu's on the board with, it's a crazy time, right? And a lot of people affected. So how about you? What are your thoughts? 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. And Doc, this is kind of unprecedented, really,
It really is. I mean, we were looking at this week. You always look at 9/11, a day to remember, because we have said emphatically we will not forget. And this very morning, every name was read. The president goes to the Pentagon. Speeches are given. Prayers are offered. But yesterday afternoon, just those shocking reports that you get, notifications now. All of a sudden I get a notification on my phone that Charlie Kirk has been shot. Wait a minute. How did he get shot? Why? What's going on here? And then you get a notification, hey, he's critical, but he's in stable condition. Okay. And then comes from the President of the United States the announcement that he had died. And I had my mixed emotions. I know so many other people, immediately there's you're heartbroken, but there's anguish and, yes, anger. And then the question comes from us who are Christian leaders. How do we respond when a Christian is killed, a martyr? And that's how I look at Charlie. He was representing Christ. And how do we respond? Are we going to burn things down? Are we going to riot? Are we going to curse other people out? Is there a biblical view that Charlie Kirk would want us to have? Because that's what he was espousing, a biblical worldview. And Romans 12:21 says, overcome evil by doing good. And last night, all over this country, there were prayer meetings. And my Facebook just filled up with pictures of students in Texas A&M, at Texas Tech, Liberty University, one university after another, because he had these chapters set up for Turning Point. Like 3,500 chapters have been set up. Almost every college campus now has one. I was just at an event last Wednesday, Robby, for them setting up chapters in high schools. And I got to meet the young lady that's heading that up for this region. She's from Liberty, graduated from Liberty, her and her husband. And we just had a wonderful time talking about, okay, how do we engage young people, and just loving what Charlie had done. He engaged young people to get involved.
Yeah. And here's your chance, right, to express yourself, to get involved. As I'm sure that all our audience would love to hear what's on your heart, you know. I had several phone calls today from dear friends, and they couldn't stop crying. I mean, it literally, it broke their hearts. Some stuff that had happened in Congress broke their hearts. Yeah. But other things are encouraging, maybe, of the way certain people are responding, like what you're talking about on college campuses. But we would love to hear from you. 866 is the number to call in. It's pretty simple. 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. You know, how do you think the media is handling the subject? Do you think they're coming at it from the right angle? You know, or are they being biased in some way? Or do you think, you know, from my perspective, I haven't seen them handle anything like this, you know, they seem to be quite comprehensive, and it certainly was first up.
Well, as you know, yesterday, right after it happened, there was a commentary on a network that said some things that were that was just out of bounds, and immediately the president from that company came on and apologized, and that gentleman's been fired. I think that's caused all the rest of them realize, you know what, this is a real human being, and this has got to stop. We have got to stop talking so mean about a person's position. You can say we're going to go against the position. We can disagree. My mother-in-law always said, if we agree on everything, then one of us is not necessary. That was her saying that to her husband.
Right, yeah.
Well, so we can disagree, but we can disagree agreeably. But the attack of, because you hold that position, it means you are something that's just vile. And I study history. I've always loved history, and I studied the World War II a lot for some reason. Churchill, and to know that someone is being called a Nazi, that to me, they don't understand how bad they were, of how they just had people executed one after another. There was no humanity for them. They just had people. And when you call someone that,
it wasn't one after another. It was in mass.
Yes.
You know, several thousand in one big grave, and you know, it was unthinkable.
And so all of a sudden now, people in America who hold a different view, well, let's just call them a Nazi. Well, that raises a fear that, well, if this is the next Hitler, I should get rid of them. And here Charlie Kirk is out there in the open. He went to the market square. He went where he could dialogue, and he said, prove me wrong. Ask any question you want. I'd never seen anyone like him. I mean, I remember years ago when who is this guy? And I've been hearing that today from other news commentators who, when they first met him, like, who is this guy? And Rush Limbaugh, they went and pulled a tape on him, and of when he first met him, like, this guy is different. Wow.
Well, we got Tyler is in Utah, very close to where it all happens. So, Tyler, you're on Truth Talk Live. Good afternoon.
Hi, Skylar, but that's okay. Tyler's fine, too.
Skylar, I appreciate it.
Skylar.
So, yeah, it's got to be real close to home for you.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. A lot of people look at Utah, and they look at the Mormons, and they see this happy little conservative
Skylar,
state.
I hate to jump in. That music means that we're about to be at a break, and I want to cut you off. Can you hang on through the break for us?
No problem.
Thank you, Skylar. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. And how about you? 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
We are talking about the assassination, the sad assassination of Charlie Kirk, and some of our responses to that. And we're excited that we have Skylar calling in from Utah. Actually, I have Angela in Ohio as well. We'll get to her in a second. But so, Skylar, yeah, it's really, really close to home to you guys.
Yeah, it's horrible to see something happen where you live. But the first thing that killed me was just, I'm 30. Charlie's my age.
Oh, yeah.
And I have 2 young kids, and I really related as a father. Yeah. And when I became a Christian in 2016, I was so politically motivated to walk into a church. That's why I did. And then seeing a guy like Charlie Kirk, who did have a political voice, but was championing the gospel, really helped me learn that focus of God first and all the politics in the world second.
Mm-hmm. And that awesome that God brings all sorts of people like that in our lives for the season. Yes, for the time that we get a chance to grow under their time, and it's amazing how those names still stick out in my mind of men that just for whatever short period of time God allowed them in my life and made a big impact. And Skylar, I really commend you. That's exciting because I know so many young men, they get caught up in that the political fight because we're kind of born warriors. God's a warrior, and so we kind of got that in us where we want a battle to fight. Fighting for the gospel is quite a struggle. So,
and you do it with joy. He was being called the happy warrior. Charlie was just different. He was a happy warrior. He wasn't trying to just condemn somebody, but he did want to challenge them to think. Why do you hold the position you hold? What is it that causes you to really believe what you believe, and let them work through it? And he sharpened all of us to be better at how to share the gospel with compassion, I think.
Yeah, it's a big
compassion, logic, and honestly, before you take the next call, one of the things that went through my head was that beautiful C.S. Lewis quote that he knows when he dies that hell's going to rejoice because he's no longer in the fight. And that's, we lost a warrior like that.
That's a good word, Skylar. Really is. Well said, my friend. God bless you. Thank you for your call. It means the world to us. It really does. God bless. Have an amazing day.
Have a wonderful
What's left
day.
to it. Yeah. We got Angela is in Ohio. And Angela, you're on Truth Talk Live.
Hi. I am very humbled to be a part of the discussion today, and even more so to hear what others have been speaking about this horrible event. And I was substituting today in the high school. I had the privilege to be there today and hear some of the reactions from the kids. And I have a 14-year-old son as well, who a few days before this happened had shared with me. I'd never really heard of him or listened to him, but my son brought some of what he was sharing recently, or what he came across with Charlie Kirk, that, Charlie Kirk had made a comment about, I can't dress up as a Latino and identify as a Latino just because I want to. And that really, resonated with my son and myself, that, we are born who we are, and, we don't get to just kind of pick and choose. And that's part of that condition of our, surrender to our Creator, how He created us, that I know a lot of people nowadays don't seem to want to have to submit to. But it got brought up in the class where I was co-teaching with another substitute teacher about that topic, about what happened with Mr. Kirk. And the kids were kind of, sharing that they had heard and they listened to him. a lot. They were sharing that. But then when I brought up the point about what my son had shared with me, because I wasn't really knowledgeable of his platform, and when I brought that up, I actually got these looks that I knew like I had said something wrong in their eyes. And so I asked him, was something wrong that I said, that I shared about what he had said or that I had heard he had said? And he said, yeah, you guys aren't supposed to talk about that stuff in school. And it just really struck me. It was the last period of the day, and I've just been ruminating over it, and that was why I called in. And I was just like, God, how, if we can't make bridges and have open discussion, and children cannot be taught in classrooms to critically think about these things or speak about these things, if it's not okay to talk about, that's part of the problem in my heart. Just think of that. And
you couldn't
so
be
I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, you couldn't be more right in that Satan loves to keep things in the dark.
Yep.
And when you begin to bring him out into the light, then those who unfortunately have that bent, whatever you want to say, that Satan is in their ear, he immediately says, that's out of line. You can't talk about that. But, oh my goodness, you couldn't be more right, Angela, that, this is, if you can't talk about it with the young people, that are impressionable, what in the world? It's like, what? So I love that you're a teacher, Angela, and I love your heart and your discernment in the situation. Doc, you're about to jump.
Well, it's so interesting, again, how Charlie Kirk figured out how do we engage young people, not just college students. And I've heard this from so many that are 13 and 14. He understood social media of TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, podcast. How do you get the message out? We're not getting them into church to hear the message. We're not getting them to a youth group to hear the message. We're not getting it taught in school. But he went with a different avenue. And even last night, I'm hearing from a teenager I did not know had been listening to him. And I'm hearing all these viewpoints that are biblical worldview points that I didn't know she held, but she held them because she had been listening to Charlie Kirk's podcast. And he was causing her to think through opposite of what she was hearing from her classmates and in school, where that's kept kind of, it seems to be, as you said, Angela, in the dark. You're not supposed to talk about it, and it needs to be talked about. How do you make your decisions? Is it a biblical worldview that guides your decision, or is it a earthly worldview? I'll do what's right in my own sight. That's the Charlie Kirk legacy. He was getting young people to think, what kind of decision will I be making?
That's beautiful, Angela. What a call. I am so grateful for that insight, and especially, your son. How cool is that, 14, right? That he inspired the whole. That's really encouraging to me. I'm sure it is for many people, Angela.
Yeah, I do. I pray that the kids keep talking, and despite what, we need to give them permission. That's what it is. Is we need to give them permission to talk, because right now we're telling them that, just like that boy told me, we're not allowed. We've not been given permission to talk about these things. So I just encourage, however, God, is greater, definitely, and He will. He will make a way.
Yeah, and I think that it makes another point, Angela, that I think is important, that Doc brought up to me last night, that in a way, this event highlights his ministry, and I think so many more people are becoming aware of what was involved in that and where the good stuff was going as a result of the tragedy. And so as people are praying, he is showing us the way. Thank you again, Angela. So grateful for your call, and we would love yours. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today is September 11th, and, often a day of remembrance. Today is a bit different in that we're remembering Charlie Kirk and the tragedy of yesterday, and I love what people's insight. We've had some of the most amazing calls, and the good news is we got 3 more lined up for you, so we're excited. We got Mike and Anna and another Mike, and so we're going to start off with Mike Zwick is calling in, often a host of Truth Talk Live, but I know this subject's near and dear to your heart, right, Mike?
It sure is, buddy, and I appreciate you taking my call. It was a very sad day for America, and I think a lot of people's true colors came out. My wife actually told me this morning, she said that there was a gentleman from MSNBC who actually got fired today. Yep. And I guess I'd like to commend MSNBC for firing the guy, because he basically said that Charlie Kirk got what he deserved.
Yep.
And so, but, it's so sad that people are actually celebrating a patriot, a Christian, a man who was willing to stand up for what he believed in. They were celebrating his death, and I think it's absolutely awful. So that was I guess you could say that was the first part. But the second part was this, is that when I woke up this morning, I was spending some time in the Word, Robby, and I was spending some time with the Lord, and I felt that I felt a leaning from the Holy Spirit to say that, yes, this was tragic, and I feel so bad for his family, but I also feel like this is going to be a wake-up call for Christians in the United States, and I feel like this is something that could be a rallying cry.
Absolutely.
Where more Christians will actually want to stand up for what they believe in. I was over at the gym earlier today, and I was listening to a song, and the song was this. It said, you've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And so I'm so proud that Charlie Kirk was willing to stand up for what he believed in, and I hope that it brings a lot of other Christians the guts to say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to stand up for what we believe, for what I believe in, even if it costs me everything. Because Jesus put it like this. He says, greater love hath no man than this, and he laid down his life for his friends. And by Charlie Kirk willing to stand up for what he believed in, he was shot and killed, and he said, I don't care what anybody else says, I'm not backing down. I'm not backing down. And, I believe that this is, people have already been talking about revival, but I believe that this is going to even push us closer to a revival as well. And I believe I see stuff online, Robby, and Dr. Carson. I see people say, I just saw a guy this morning say, this makes me want to stand up for Christ. I need to surrender my life to Christ. And so, the Bible says that, it says in Romans 8:28, it says that we know that all things work together for good to those who love God and for them who are called according to his purpose. So I'm going to spend some time in prayer. I'm praying for his family. I'm praying for our country, and I'm also praying for that this will unite Christians and conservatives.
God bless you. Thank you, Michael.
A turning point in our
go.
country.
God bless. Well, we got Anna is in Lynchburg, Virginia. Anna, you're on Truth Talk Live. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. My name's actually Ann, but
oh, I'm sorry.
I never. It's okay. I don't care. I have not been before, but I am a teacher, and just in response, I'm driving home from school listening to the substitute teacher speak up, and I just wanted to call in, speak some truth. It is not against the law for her to say that, and I think Satan is a liar and a deceiver, and people will tell you what you can and can't do, and you might believe them, but she was within her rights to bring up a topic. As educators, we should be challenging people to think, young people to share their opinions, just like Charlie Kirk did, but do it with diplomacy and respect. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think she was incorrect at all. I think she was right on point. And the child that thought it was out of line was actually not telling the truth. He's misinformed. But Absolutely. I don't shy away from those opportunities. And when I'm in the classroom, if a student asks a question, I create it as an opportunity, student-led, but offered, does anyone want to pray about that? I mean, there is no reason why we can't offer that platform to students. And if I get fired or the school board doesn't like it, I trust the Lord will take care of me and my family's needs, because like the previous caller was saying, we need to be bold and courageous and not be afraid of man's laws. We answer to a higher power.
Oh, absolutely. And I applaud your courage, to call in and share that and clear it up. I don't know that the other teacher was saying it was illegal. She felt like that wasn't okay to talk about it in the culture's eyes is kind of like the scary part of, but I'm so glad you cleared it up, because absolutely, it's important that we know.
She was in her right as the adult in the classroom to bring up a relevant current topic. And I think the students sometimes get uncomfortable and they may be misinformed themselves and say, oh, we're not allowed to talk about that. But you are allowed to talk about it. It's just how you go about it. It has to be framed in a respectful dialogue and debate kind of way.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that during the break, and that Satan's one of his biggest deceivers is just to keep things, you can't talk about that. That's
things in the dark.
Keep it canceled. Like, that's off limits. You can't go there. Where honestly, any thinking person would go, there's something wrong when people start identifying as cats and other animals and stuff like that. It's just something doesn't seem to add up there, and those kind of discussions. Just think of all the parents, and I applaud you in your prayer comment as well.
Yeah. Well, just yesterday I had a student fall and twist her ankle and maybe broken, and I took her to the nurse, and she's in tears, and I said, can I pray for you? And she said, yes, please. And I'm not going to shy away from those opportunities. And if it upsets them, then that's fantastic, because they should wonder, why would anybody not want to be prayed for? Why is that offensive?
Exactly right.
And the student can say no. It's an option. It's like, would you like fries with that Coke? It's just, I'm putting it out there. It can be denied, but people are going to know who I am. And if they have questions, where my classroom is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I can't tell you how many times I've had people that actually, because as you said, I've asked people lots of times, and can I pray for you? And they say no, and they say it usually with a fairly aggressive tone. No.
Yeah. Okay,
and I'm like you. I'd say fine, but fascinatingly, those are interestingly sometimes the very people that come back and say, Robby, I have this situation, and I know I was short with you. But as you say, all you can do is just trust God and do what He says, and He'll deal with the results, Doc.
And because one of the big things on can I pray with you, I can get an answer no, but they can't stop me from praying for them. And
very good.
I had before Christ, I was antagonistic toward Christians.
And you were from Lynchburg, like Ann.
Like Ann. Yep.
Yeah, I'm right here by Liberty University. They had a vigil last night on campus. The students are he was going to come speak at convocation, and a lot of tears and prayers last night.
Yeah. Yep, and our hearts are broken for Erica and his 2 children. My word. But God is a sustaining God, and they're going to have a testimony in years to come of how God brought them through this. And He's going to raise up, I believe, 100,000 Charlie Kirks, because he started something that said, find out what you really believe. And that was one of the things, from Liberty that Dr. Falwell, don't just know what you believe, but know why you believe it. Be able to share it.
Well, thank you so much for your call, Anna. God bless you and your work as a teacher.
Yes. Thank you for being a teacher.
And so you're listening out there and you're thinking, wow, how do I call? Well, guess 866. You just call in 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. We would love your thoughts. We would truly. It's amazing how God is working in people's hearts and helping us to think about things we wouldn't normally think about. We got Mike is in Dayton, Ohio. Mike, welcome to Truth Talk Live.
Well, thanks for taking my call. And I have a lot of young people around me. I have 3 kids that I call them kids because they're in their 30s. But anyways, they were all grieving this morning. And it was wonderful for me to see that they was listening to Charlie Kirk. I just listened to them. I really didn't give them anything. I said, God's coming back soon. Your life is like a vapor. You need to get right with God. I did say that to them. My son called me and said, Dad, did you hear the news? He's in his 30s. And I said, yeah, I did. It's so tragic. I had a daughter as well call me. And then she didn't call me for that, but then she said, do you know what happened, Dad? I said, yeah, Charlie Kirk died. And I said, is that why you called? And he said, no, I love you, Dad. And it's just awesome that he a lot of young people. He was viral online, and he touched a lot of lives, and he answered a lot of questions about God, and that was wonderful. And how he answered them with love and grace. He never answered any of the questions online. And all those videos he was a man's man for God. That's for sure.
That's beautiful.
And what a great statement right there. In several conversations today, we lost a man. There's so many people. You begin to learn that he had influenced them. He was a man's man at 31 who said, my wife is my priority. My children are my priority. He just said that Monday night on Laura Ingraham, that above his career is his family. There's nothing more important than family. But that really there was one more thing more important than family, and that was his faith. And that you could be a man and believe in God and go to church and serve God. What a man he was to look up to.
Well, thank you for your call so much, Mike. And we would love to hear from you. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. Again, reflecting on Charlie Kirk, his ministry, his life. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Tonight, September 11th, 2025, kind of in that remember, right? And it's a phenomenal biblical word, remember.
Yeah, remember to remember.
That Jesus said it that night, do this in remembrance of me. Many churches have that on their communion tables that sit up front. Mm-hmm. And we remember 9/11, many of us, and again, remembering, some of the amazing things I'm hearing about Charlie Kirk. I mean, how cool is it that 13, 14-year-olds were getting truth?
Through a new medium called social media.
Or through his podcast. He had get this, the number one podcast in the world. Yeah. Okay, so the number one podcast in the world. That's a gigantic platform right now.
Well, the number I've heard is 85 million people that he had somehow connected with through
maybe it was the number one conservative podcast in the world. It may have been, because we were saying that he rivaled Rush Limbaugh and was doing that in his radio show as well. But either way, here's this unbelievable platform that God gave him for the season that he gave it for him. And in that, like you say, I love that God will be raising up people that to raise that flag and continue to do that, because he was such a young man. I mean,
31 years of age.
Right. And so what are you thinking? I would love to hear your thoughts. I really 866-348-7884 is the number to call in and share, how, the things you've heard over the last 48 hours, the things that you're thinking. We're very interested. That's what Truth Talk Live is about. We have the show, right, to bring current events there, which, it's kind of current in that it is September 11th. It has that feel to it. 866-348-7884. So, Doc, I love something you told me as we were getting ready to do this show that really is pretty poignant, is that his birthday is coming up.
Yeah.
And there's a really relevant question along those lines.
Well, I do date the word. I've got verses for people's birthday, and I just got to thinking this morning, I wonder when Charlie Kirk's birthday is. And it's October the 14th, and I looked at that, and I really don't have a verse for what I'm getting ready to give right now. There's a couple of really great verses for him, like John 10:14. He's the shepherd, he's the door. But Charlie Kirk was a political activist. He wanted people to get involved. And one of the ways you get involved is you register to vote. You can't vote if you're not registered. At least you're not supposed to. So he was after voter registration, and part of the event I was with last Wednesday night here in North Carolina was talking about helping young people to get registered. And I was ahead of school, and when a student would turn 18, I wanted them, hey, guess what you get to do today? You get to register to vote. So we were talking about, does Turning Point have an event, kind of a big event to say, today's the day, get registered. I think October the 14th, one of the great birthday gifts we could give Charlie Kirk is that if we're not registered to vote, we register to vote. Just a thought.
It's an amazing one. Maybe 1 million people get registered on Charlie Kirk's birthday. So we got Don is in North Carolina. Don, you're on Truth Talk Live. Don, can you hear me?
Sir, how you doing?
I am doing great. What have you got for us?
How you doing? Hello?
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up, but can you hear me now? Hello, Don. He's in, he's out. All right. Well,
we'll try us again, Don.
Don will call back, and we will see what we can do. Please, Don, call us back at 866-348-7884. Hopefully you'll be in a better zone. So, there are two things you actually mentioned. I actually like the first one better than the register to vote.
Yeah.
Although I like the register to vote one. Yep. But the first thing you said you could give Charlie Kirk for your birthday. The other thing he really, really, really wanted was.
Yeah. And he wanted people to get saved. He understood. I heard someone give a comparison yesterday as this was played out. Charlie Kirk was Billy Graham and Rush Limbaugh. He was light and he was salt. And the thing that he would want more than you registered to vote is that you would say yes to Jesus.
There you go. We do have Don back. So, Don, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, I can hear you great. Praise the Lord. I would just, my pastor had sent out a little text to his congregation yesterday, and Dr. Bo Wagner's my pastor, and he had sent out a little text to everybody yesterday, and for condolence, and I was just thinking about what he had written, and in what he had written, he said, this is a time to grieve, and we need to grieve Charlie Kirk. He was a good man, and he's with the Lord, and we know that. But he said, I want you to think about one thing. When Paul stood there and held the coats of those men that stoned Stephen to death, he said later on, Paul became one of the greatest evangelists that ever lived. He said, God might be getting to rise up another Paul.
Yes.
So I just wanted to think about that and say, we lost a good man, but maybe out of this tragedy might be something like a Paul that arises on the scene to spread the gospel.
That's such a beautiful thought, Paul. What a wonderful pastor it sounds like you have. And, that is a...
He writes a lot of books, and he's a good man. He's a good godly man.
That's beautiful. Absolutely.
Don, thank you for this call. Yes.
Thank you. Look, if you have a chance, look up Cornerstone Baptist Church, Mooresboro. Our pastor's got commentaries and books, and he's a godly man. He's a self-made man. Started the church 27 years ago. It's grown. And
that's beautiful.
God's really blessing.
Yeah, and he's got quite a disciple right here that called in with that thought. God bless you, Don. You have a great week. Bye-bye. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I compared yesterday immediately. I think Charlie Kirk was Stephen. Stephen was in Acts 7. He's out there in the marketplace, and he's having dialogue with Jews. Who is Jesus? And, when it comes to asking these questions, Jesus himself said, who do men say that I am? He wanted us to debate, is he really who he said he is? And here's Stephen out there, and he's pointing all these Jews, Jesus is the fulfillment of the prophecies. He's the Messiah. And they got so angry, they stoned him. They put him to death. And how do you react to that? The day after, how do you react to that? That one of your great leaders, Stephen, has been put to death. And what Don just said, what his pastor said, Saul was there consenting. And there's today people who are consenting. They're glad. It breaks their heart to even think this, but they're glad that Charlie Kirk was killed. Well, they may be the very Saul that will get saved and become a Paul, and years from now they're going to be preaching the gospel. Who knows how God's going to use this?
So we got a couple minutes. If you got a thought, we would love to hear from you. Feel free. Call us, 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And honestly, as I look at the situation, what I've seen in the media, which honestly I haven't had a lot of time to look at it, but it doesn't seem it has the opposite effect of the polarizing of so many tragedies. A lot of the tragedies cause more division, more riots, whatever. But most of the people I've seen, it's had a better sense of outrage at what clearly is just wrong.
I think early on when some things were being said and all of a sudden people are realizing how they are responding and what they're saying is becoming immediately shown, and they're looking at themselves going, I don't want to be known for saying these bad things about a good man that just got assassinated with a wife and 2 children.
Well, people wouldn't know this unless I tell them that, you called me on Monday, wanted to do a show on bad behavior in a baseball game.
Yes.
Because, this woman wasn't aware that the cameras were on her and everybody's looking.
Everyone at that stadium was looking.
And she had taken the baseball out of a little boy's gloves, through her father, whatever the story is. But anyway, her behavior became glaringly obvious that everyone is looking, right? And that in of itself is sort of a lesson, isn't it? As we see people begin to evaluate, gee, I feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way.
I think social media has caused us to think we can hide behind what we say, and we can't. The old statement from the Bible is, be sure your sins will find you out. And we think we can be vile and mean toward other people and nobody will ever know. It's not true. And we need to behave better.
But the beautiful thing that Charlie Kirk's life apparently stands for is if you're beautiful to people, even though they're completely on the other side, that too speaks volumes. It's called grace, right?
Love your enemies.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Tomorrow's coming up. We got Doc tomorrow again. Date the Word. Thanks for listening.